Hello everybody, here's my second video talking about all my Arrow Blu Ray collection. Not only have I got new ones since I recorded the first one, but as somebody pointed out in the comments, I will find out his name, I can't remember at the moment. I had the sort of phone upright, which obviously gives it less of a screen presence once you watch it back, so this time I'm sort of doing it landscape. I'm just going to give a brief overview of each film, so I won't sort of go into them too long. I might do some reviews. People are interested in that in the individual titles. So I've got the Lady Vengeance collection, or should I say the Vengeance trilogy. So you've got Lady Vengeance, Old Boy, and Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance. The others are good, but Old Boy is one of my favourite films ever, and definitely amongst my favourite foreign. Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. This is a special edition, collector's edition. Quite a zany, weird film. Good, but obviously not going to be everyone's cup of tea. It's one of my favourite films ever. Definitely the best version I've got of this. Amazing picture quality. I'm not sure if we can get it on 4K. Probably looks better, but as far as Blu-ray goes, so this again is the collector's edition. And you've got Nightbreed, Clive Barker. Again, the collector's edition. Special edition. This film, when I first watched it when I was younger, I seen the director's cut, and I did think it was a bit sort of all over the place and didn't make sense, but in hindsight there were bits missing, and this version, still not a brilliant film, it's got flaws, but it's entertaining, and not as good as, say, Hellraiser as far as Clive Barker's work goes, or Lord of Illusions, but it is much better if you watch the director's cut with more footage. That makes more sense as well. Pitch black with the slip cover. Vin Diesel. I'm pretty sure everybody knows of that one. Let's see if I can get this back in. Jesus. It shows you the way to the highway with a slip cover. This is quite a new release. I think it's a new film. Usually Arrow sort of release older films or cult films, the ones that are out of print, that they get the rights to, but I think this is quite newly made. This is crazy, all over the place, sort of deranged film. A lot of different media in it, and the woman. This is quite a disturbing film, quite sort of brutal with a lot of violence, and I quite enjoyed this. It's kind of an independent film. I know a few people that didn't like it, but I thought it was good. This is an underrated film. I'd not even heard of this before I got this, to tell you the truth, considering it's got Timothy Spall in it. It's basically a woman that this has got a lot about crazy dreams, some real crazy imagery in it, and the two sort of sleazy detectives by Timothy Spall and someone else are good. Then you've got Waterworld by Kevin Costner. This was a big sort of, and Dennis Hopper. This was a sort of big budget film that I think flopped, but this version is better if you actually watch the Ulysses cut with a lot more added footage. It's not the best sort of action film, but I can't see the hate on it. Donnie Darko in the slipcover, special edition. It's a good film, really sort of slow burner. I think it's Jake Gyllenhaal's first film, at least his breakout film. Sort of leaves you wondering what happened at the end, kind of a head twister. Weird Science, this is a special edition with the slipcase. This is a really good 80s film. Didn't actually see this one as a kid, otherwise it'd be more nostalgic for me, but only seen it for the first time when I bought it recently. A really good film. Guyver with Mark Hamill. It's pretty crazy, but I sort of found this one dragged a bit. I didn't want my favourite. The Wind with Meg Ryan. It's a sort of slasher in like a creepy house when there's sort of a storm outside. It is quite good actually. Creepshow 2. Let me get in a better light. There's a bit of glare on this. Creepshow 2. There is a better sort of version, the special edition collectors, which I didn't get when it first came out, and now I'm not paying crazy money for it. Not as good as Creepshow 1, but better than Creepshow 3. Exorcist 3, this is one of my favourite films. Amazing performance by Brad Dourif, especially when he's in the sort of prison cell with his dialogue. This is the director's cut with added footage, but some of the added footage ain't in great quality. And then it's got George C. Scott from The Changeling. But yeah, that's one of my favourites. I wouldn't say it's a better film than Exorcist 1, but it's more entertaining. It's more of a kind of murder mystery. Harpoon. I think this is like an independent, quite a new film. I was actually quite surprised how good this one is. Quite sort of disturbing, and you don't know where it's going to go, and it goes places you wouldn't expect with a bit of a twist. Daniel isn't real. This has got Arnold Schwarzenegger's son in it. This is a really good film, some pretty disturbing sort of footage. Satanic Planet, this is like a kind of throwback sort of 80s film. A few sort of famous older actresses in. This is really good, quite funny and quite gory, but yeah, just a sort of fun film. This, I would say, is the best werewolf film ever. Up there with Dog Soldiers and The Howling, American Werewolf in London. One of my favourites. Candyman. I better not say it too many times, even though I'm not in a mirror. This is a good film. Really sort of original slasher. I like the kind of way it shows the sort of urban style based on a book by Clive Barker. And I have seen well, not the remake, the sequel, the new version. I wouldn't say it's as good as that. Hellraiser. This is definitely the best from the Hellraiser films. Really sort of dark and gothic. Quite sort of brutal. Hellraiser 2, not quite as good, but I like it when they're in the labyrinth with Dr. Chenard. House is more of a sort of comedy horror. Used to see the case of this at the video store when I was younger on VHS, and always thought the front cover with the hand sort of pressing the doorbell always grabbed my attention. Got a few sort of Asian ones here, so Pulse, much better than the remake. Ring, this is a classic. This is kind of the first maybe not horror, foreign horror, but the first Asian sort of cinema I'd ever sort of got into, about the same time as Battle Royale. Dark Water, this is good, a really creepy atmospheric kind of film. About a woman and her daughter in a flat and water starts coming through. It's a kind of ghost film. Audition, the first hour starts like a kind of slow burn romantic drama, and then it sort of flips from there, and the end is pretty crazy. You've got to watch it. There's a few sort of shocking moments in it, to tell you the truth. Happiness of the Katakuris, this is the one by Takashi Miike, who also makes Audition. This is a kind of musical comedy zombie horror, just sort of all over the place, but really classic film, especially when the old guy throws the stick at the seagull. Terraformers by Takashi Miike. Haven't actually watched this one yet, but looks a bit like a sort of cheap version of Starship Troopers. Killer Clowns from Outer Space. I'm sure everybody knows this one is a classic. Sort of old throwback film, really fun. Burnt Offerings. This is a really good one with Oliver Reed. Quite a messed up film. Interesting. Yeah, I can't remember too much of it, but it was good. Matinee, this is more one of the more unknown Joe Dante ones compared to, say, Gremlins and Howling. Yeah, it's a fun film about sort of cinema. Ascender, this is a really good one. I think this is underrated a bit. When he's in the hospital and they've got him hooked up, and then he basically goes in slow motion. Everyone starts flying around the room through telekinesis. It is an amazing scene. Black Moon Rising. A lot of people didn't like this too much, but I quite enjoyed this. The effects aren't great, but I think it's written by John Carpenter, Tommy Lee Jones, and Linda Hamilton from Terminator fame. An enjoyable sort of car chase sort of film. Early works of David Cronenberg. I guess this isn't for everyone. They're quite experimental, strange films, but they are good if you're into Cronenberg stuff, which I am. I've pretty much got all of his films, but not all in the Arrow collection. Shivers, a good one. Quite an old school. I think it's his first or second one, but it still holds up. Videodrome. This is probably my favourite one by him, up there with The Fly. One of my favourite horror films ever, quite sort of subversive, and really good acting from James Woods and Deborah Harry, and I think it was her first film role. The Baby, this is quite messed up, kind of disturbing, but basically it's not a spoiler to this, but his sisters and mum sort of treat him like a baby, keep him in a cot, sort of try to keep him in nappies and don't let him sort of live for himself, and then the social worker comes round because she thinks he's being abused, and it all sort of goes from there. The Beyond, Lucio Fulci, this is probably my favourite film by him, along with the next one. Some amazing visuals, and the special effects back for when it was are pretty good, and a good soundtrack. Zombie Flesh Eaters, this maybe just pips a post. The bit with the shark under the water fighting the zombie is amazing. Some really good sort of music as well, and synths in it. The Burbs, this is my favourite, and my younger sister, I got her into this one. It's more of a got in the family horror sort of comedy, with sort of the Klopeks next door. You don't know if they're evil or not, and it's kind of all a bit of a sort of mystery. But yeah, Tom Hanks, Bruce Dern, what's she called, the lady that plays Carrie Fisher, little Corey Feldman is in it as well. And you've got Stormy Monday. Not actually watched this one yet, but I think it's about like a jazz club. This one's got Tommy Lee Jones, Sting, and Sean Bean. I'm sure Sean Bean dies in it. Dark Blue, Russell Crowe, Kurt Russell. It is good. It's sort of LA cop film. Not my favourite one by him, to tell you the truth. Obviously, compared to, say, The Thing, it's not a patch on that. People Under the Stairs. Apart from Nightmare on Elm Street Part 1, this is probably my favourite Wes Craven film. Kind of a fun film, bit of a sort of comedy horror. Really enjoyable. Used to like that as a kid. Society. I say it starts a bit like a Beverly Hills 90210 sort of American jock kind of drama. And then near the end, obviously won't want to give a spoiler, but the special effects in the bit called The Shunt are really what makes the film. Try to get through these quick so I don't have to do it in 2 parts. Necromantic. Don't really enjoy this film. It's not really very well made, and obviously, as you can see by the cover, it's quite a messed up, sort of disturbing film, but I got it out of interest and just to add to the collection. Same as this one, Necromantic 2. This is a special edition with 3 discs. It's got the audio sort of CD. More of the same as number 1, but not as good, I would say. 12 Monkeys, Bruce Willis, Madeline Stowe, Brad Pitt. This is a Terry Gilliam film. This is quite a messed up kind of futuristic sci-fi film. Enjoyable, but not amongst my favourite sci-fi. Ronin by Robert De Niro, kind of like a modern day samurai film. Also featuring, I can't remember what's his name, let's quickly see. Jean Reno from Leon the Professional, which is one of my favourite films ever. With Natalie Portman's first role, I think. To Live and Die in LA. It's kind of another cop drama. It's a good one, but I kind of found it dragged a little bit. The Thing, this is probably my favourite film ever. I'm sure most of you know this one. I've got a lot of different versions of that, and there's a really good picture. And yeah, I watched this one about 50 times. That's John Carpenter. This is one John Carpenter's sort of best sort of family films, I would say. Big Trouble in Little China, kind of fun sort of family film. Crimson Peak, this is good, sort of gothic horror, loads of crazy sort of imagery of the big house. Quite a slow burner, but an interesting film. This, I would say, is probably my favourite slasher. I think this is better than Friday the 13th. Probably not better than Halloween 1 in terms of overall filmmaking, but for the kills and the blood and just a kind of camp slasher, yeah, I think that is sort of underrated, really. Climax, this is a Gaspar Noé film. He's done films like Irreversible and Enter the Void. He's quite a sort of messed up director that kind of pushes the boundaries, and a lot of it is shot in one take. Amazing dance choreography, some really disturbing imagery. Evil Ed, I hadn't seen this until sort of recently, although I used to always see it on the shelf in the video shop. It's really good. A guy's basically cutting horror films and editing them, and it sort of gets into his head and just sort of distorts reality. Quite a lot of gore and monsters, quite an enjoyable one. Kolobos, this is basically a slasher film. Really good, quite an underrated film. I was surprised how interesting that was. Dario Argento now. Phenomena. Not one of my favourite ones by him. It's not as good as what's it called? Gone blank at the moment. The one in the dance studio. I'll think of it any second. Christopher Walken, King of New York. Good gangster film, really good acting. Best sort of gun violence I've seen in any film. When they get shot, they literally like bounce off of the pavement with the sort of power of the bullet, which I've never seen in any film before. Hell Comes to Frogtown, Rowdy Roddy Piper. Goes to a place where it's basically all women. It's kind of a silly kind of film. I did find that dragged a bit, but it was interesting. Suspiria, I just remembered the name of the Dario Argento's best one, followed probably by Deep Red. Then you've got the Andromeda Strain. I haven't actually watched this yet, but I think it's an old sort of 60s, 70s sci-fi one. Meant to be quite interesting. And you've got Madman. This is good. I'd say not as good as, say, The Burning or the Friday the 13th, but one of the better slasher films. A bit at the start where the old guy's telling the story around a campfire is really good, really atmospheric. And then you've got Day of the Dead by George A. Romero, which I actually prefer to Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead. Find it sort of more fun. I wouldn't say it's a better film than either. Obviously, Night of the Living Dead is breakthrough, sort of first independent film to go big, and Dawn of the Dead is a more interesting kind of with a lot of political allegory, but I just prefer that one. It's more fun to watch. Class of Nukem High, quite a silly sort of trauma film, one of the better ones, better than Citizen Toxie and Romeo and Juliet. Then you've got the steelbook version of Blade of the Immortal, which I've not actually watched yet, but I hear is a really good sort of samurai sword fighting film. So I'm going to do a few more videos on some of my other bits in the collection, but that is all of the Arrow ones. Thank you for watching, and feel free to comment if you've got any of these or any of your views on them, and I'll do another video again soon. Thank you, bye.